Hi, this is Alexcursus, a show where I pick up a gunpla or figurine and see how authentic they are. This time, we are looking at the HGAC 1-144 OZ-06MS Leo. Leo is the general-purpose mass-produced mobile suit manufactured and developed by OZ, the military conglomerate that is part and also kind of shadow puppeteering the United Earth Severe Alliance. Being easy to produce, maintain, and pilot, Leo quickly became the standard mobile suit for OZ and the United Earth Severe Alliance. I would rate this kit's authenticity with saga, style, action, gimmick, and absence. For style, we will see if the gunpla looks like it did in the anime, manga, games, or other media, or if some other style is added. Does the extra style makes the gunpla look more realistic, like it is a real machine, or does it stick out like a sore thumb, making it less authentic? For the Leo, it is pretty much how it appears in the television series. Like we have mentioned with the GM Code District type, Gundam had moved away from its more power armor style into the more full-size mech ratio proportions by the time Zeta rolled around, and Gundam Wing being almost a decade afterwards is certainly using the newer, more lenient proportions. Having said that, Leo is being designed by Okawara like the original Gundam series. So his illustration, I'm sorry not having the pictures at the moment, I may remedy that with some later video, would still have the power armor proportion, but this kit have the Leo in the more robot person proportions, which is fine. What I think really elevates the style for this kit is how little gap it has in the freestanding or straight up standing form. Like the Gil Pente we had looked at before, there ought to be some hollow parts for production realism, like for Bandai to produce the model kit in a realistic cost. Leo is certainly not an expensive kit, at least this basic standard kit, but it managed to not have holo shown when it is in this very straight standing form, except for these gaps in the shoulder for the arm to rotate, which is, it's fixable. Bandai did do something to cover this before, but it is very much a minor thing. In fact, I think even by moving around the Leo here, I couldn't get much holo out. Let's put the arm up again. Back of the shield, fully covered. You can argue this indent is a holo, but it could also be how this shield is manufactured. The elbow have no gap. Back of the thigh, sure you can see the ball joint here, but it's very well covered. so not really. The foot or ankle, well covered by the ankle armor. The knee joint, you can see a bit of gap, but that's not too bad. And the hollow here, again, not very visible until you do some extreme posing. So, and the next bit I really like about this Leo is how much details it have, or sculpt lines it have, for the thigh, for the knee, the lower leg, and then the arms, skirts, these things that OZ really like on their mobile suit. And then the back hatch is very detailed. The rear thrusters have some detail on top of them. Even the shoulders have some sculpt work on it. But they are not super busy like you would see on a G-frame, or what I will call over G-framed. So that's also a very big plus on this Leo. Another big plus for this Leo is that it has no sticker sheet. I did put a holotape behind its lens so that it would looks more like, a lens or optic. It actually looks better on camera than it does with my naked eye. I can always see the greens behind the clear yellow panel, but in the right angle on the camera, you can see it shine really well with the holotape. So I guess my work is not wasted. Talking about the lack of stickers, because this Leo is pretty much how it is colored in the anime. In fact, I will say the anime used less color than this. Maybe it looks better on the newer releases, HD remasters, but yeah, this is a very good color separation on the Leo. Being designed with simple color scheme also helps, but having parts that have well separation also helps. Talking about part separation, you can see this clamshell line here on the side. It is not just a clamshell line. They actually have a channel sculpted into it, so it looks more natural. Like the Leo is manufactured, being simple to manufacture, just have front and back piece of armor stuck together with an obvious gap in the middle for maintenance, so as these hatches on the side and the side of the thigh with a clear gap for assembly. And then the skirts are all their own block, up to the chest, abdomen, upper and lower belly. And then we have this safety bar pretty much for the cockpit up in the middle, or it is a service bar to drag the Leo out. In fact, one of the many reasons I like the Leo is how much industrial looking it is. Sure, these things may be not realistic on a 18 meters tall humanoid robot, but it feels like you can operate, or you can have machines dragging this around, carrying it around, work on it. And then the side of the head actually have red parts for it. And the shoulder, it is two-piece again, but once again, instead of a full ball that is unrealistic to manufacture, it is two dome, and the shoulder armor hides that gap. Shoulder armor still have a bit of a mold line. I could have worked more on it, but to be honest, I think I spent too much effort on this kit. The way it is We'll talk about that in action, but single piece bicep, but that's like standard for HG. And then for the forearm, the elbow armor does have a noticeable level between the upper part and the lower part, but not in the front, which isn't a big problem due to the way this thing is assembled. You can definitely do seamless work here without inhibiting the build and subsequent painting. But yeah, just with a lot of extra work into the sculpt for time saving, the forearm is the only place that does not do that. I wouldn't say it's odd. It is probably just because the arms ought to be behind something most of the time, and yeah, you see the flat, not so much on the side, so they just not bother with it. So overall, style-wise, I really don't see where I can pick on with this Leo kit, except for this top gap, which you wouldn't see in most angles. So next up is action. Simply put, how well are the articulations? How good they are? Do they have a wide range, etc.? So I kind of started it to demonstrate how well the doing some of the action, but let's go through it again. The arm, hand is on the ball joint as usual. The arm is only a single joint, but it can go up to 150 degrees. That's more than most good single joint or even basic double joint. Shoulder going basically 90 degree or 89 degree for better looking, like more natural. And then a shoulder joint to pull forward. Basically can do very human-like movement. Oh, bicep rotation as well. So very much full range there. The head, Leo's head is always a bit of a mystery. In the show, they don't really move, but they do give them it is on a ball joint in this kit, but there is enough geometry that is authentic to limit it to just minor twitches, but they are good enough to be rather expressive despite there's no face on the Leo, just a single square block as an optic or eye. And then what I always forgot is the abdomen. There is forward crunch and backward crunch on the top ball joint, and then there's rotation on the lower belly. So so Leo can be very expressive with its midsection. And then the skirt, front skirt can move. It is actually on a ball. Curiously enough, they do tell you to cut the two ball connection in the Leo's manual compared to older manuals that they don't tell you can do that to get independent movement. But yeah, otherwise side skirt is on a ball joint, so it got a bit of movement, although it is kind of limited by the belly and the thigh. Leo's thigh is quite thick, but they are somewhat offset down, so it can go 85 degrees up. Still pretty high kick if you combine both sides, and can kick his own ass easily, which does help with the rear thrusters, so poking out so far still. And then yeah, basically almost full folding on the knee. Yeah, the ankle armor have a tendency to pop out of the ball joint here, but it is limited by the shin, and I mean you can play around with the, not really, but yeah, without the ankle armor, the foot can go very, very, very far. With the ankle armor, it is limited by there, but this is a very clear cut that you can use as a guide to get more movement if you really want to do so. The foot we touch a bit, basically movement limited by the ankle armor, but it is on a ball joint, so still a lot of tilt on every direction. I do suspect it is intentional that the ankle armor is somewhat loose to give you more room for posting. Now, while there is a suggestion of the kneeling pose as a action test, I think I have to feed into the meme about Leo. Yep, Leo can easily standing on his feet on a rather dramatic pose. So for action, while there is a bit of limitation on some of the parts, I have to say Leo have exceeded anything we have seen on this show, so it would definitely get an S. Next up is Gimmick. This usually would be any onboard weapon systems, except Leo doesn't really have them except for the shield, but we'll talk about the shield later. The main weapon, described as the 105mm rifle, is basically an SMG. And unlike a lot of weapons we will see in HG, you can just plop it into Leo's hand and it will hold it securely. That's, well, also very good color separation. Most of the time you'll see Gundam having a monocolor weapon, especially for range weapon. But in case for Leo, the drum magazine is a separate color, as well as the muzzle device with the aiming device that is a topic for another time. But that's not it. The handle on the magazine can rotate like so. In the manual, it's supposed to be for Leo to grab it to stabilize the gun, but then what it feels like to me is a handle for magazine change. This magazine is a separate piece, and they do go in to make the scope work like it is having a fit lip up here. So a more what I think Okawa's intention is this is actually a mechanical lock for the magazine that you can, absolutely have Leo open up the hand from the hand armor and carry it as a magazine change, or have a second Leo just carrying separate magazines for his buddy in the front shooting with it, and then lock in. Now the shield. The shield is actually not on most Leo that you see in the anime. That is because by the time anime happened, Leo doesn't need to fight enemy mobile suits. Leo is basically just being used as oversized ride control machines. So they have a second shoulder armor instead of the shield, which contains two beam sabers to fight other mobile suits. Um, I keep this to Gimmick because this shield have a lot of movement. And I think this is a great gimmick that you can, again, make the Leo very expressive despite it just have a square eye with no facial features at all. The beam sabers, a little bit tricky to get to, hold in by single peg, and that peg size is the same as a beam saber blade, and we just put it in Leo's hand. It is a bit loose compared to Bigil Pente, but it does have a little guard so that when you hold it upright, the beam saber wouldn't go anywhere. This is actually quite a fighting pose with a SMG tuck on the side and a beam saber ready to go. Addition to Gimmick, you will see how this lower panel have a bit of a tap and also not flush compared to the one on top because you can absolutely put out. And this is for the Leo's option parts, basically, for other types of mission, even flying type. And it means if you have builder parts or option parts with a small ball joint or a small peg, you can peg them on the side of Leo's thigh. That is probably one of the reasons why Leo is being picked as one of the recolor we see in the Build Diver series. I would talk about that kit when we have one in hand, but for now, that's a very special, I would say, special gimmick for a basic TV version of the kit to have. I mean, you do see the other Leo variants in the TV show, but Bandai never made any kits during the run or immediately after. So it is quite a surprise to see it in this Leo kit. And then the back hatch, which I don't think my snails suffice. The back hatch can open as well, a rare thing for HG with a openable hatch. Now it is featureless with just a single peg hole, but you can also use this peg hole for the option parts or build parts. Again, that's probably why they picked the Leo as one of the recolors they use in Build Divers. Let's put him in a more relaxed state. Actually, before we go into absence, I would want to talk about another part that is kind of gimmick, less of an action. Leo is the first gunpla kit that heavily features the C-clip for the major joints like the knees and the elbow. And Bandai do a very good job hiding it. With the Demi trainer, you can easily see the elbow and the knee having a second unit, like a cover to cover up the C-clip. So is the EG Gundam or EG in general. But on the Leo, you practically cannot see where there you go, this little gap here. Yeah, it's practically invisible because you assume it is just part of the scope. But it is in fact the C-clip going from the back to the forearm joint and then a front cover. So being a C-clip, I know people have strong opinions on C-clip, but to me they are very good for painting and they are more serviceable than polycaps. Not that Leo is free of polycaps. It does need or uses a couple of polycap balls. Curiously, not at the thigh, but at the thigh rotation, which gives the thigh joint an extra play on the side, so it can go in really far for some ballet-like articulation. Same goes for the foot. The ankle joint is a C-clip, but the foot joint, the ankle joins the foot, is a ball. And then the mid crunch is a ball where they go into basically a circular hole, so that when you don't want movement, you can have a very tight abdomen, but when you do want movement, you get a lot of play. So for Gimmick, not only does this Leo kit not missing from its standard equipment, because standard equipment is 2 basic shoulder armor with the 105mm rifle, but it also provides you with the early type shield and beam saber and blade. Now you can argue that it does not provide you with the beam rifle, just bazooka or hyper bazooka. Let's just say bazooka. Beam rifle, bazookas, doppler cannon, doppler gun, and all the other optional parts. But most Leo we see in the series are just firing their 105 machine guns, and even some, main character, major character get the pilot one, they are probably just using the 105 rifle. So I don't think an S for Gimmick is far-fetched. Maybe S minus, because it doesn't have a whole lot in this kit, but I will talk about that in verdict. S minus, I think, is the lowest I can give for Gimmick. So finally, absence. Pretty much with the excellent style, excellent action, excellent gimmicks, there shouldn't be any absence, right? Well, we just talked about how this kit does not provide you with any of the Leo variant option parts. And sadly, most of those option parts are P-Bandai. So you would have a hard time, supposedly, finding them on the retail market. Now, Bandai do have the gun barrel striker separate out from the 105 dagger for their option parts line. I am not sure if they will do the same for Leo, but there is hope for that, especially with Gundam W's 30 years anniversary coming up, or Bandai just have another round of P-Bandai release so that it is slightly easier to find them online. Either way, because of the unavailability of those option parts and how they are not in this kit, I would say it is only an A in absence, because there is still some crumbs on the floor. Maybe they are not worth picking up for some, or most people in fact, but it is an absence that we can't do absolutely everything with Leo. If this kit wasn't being sold in the way it is sold, so that we can get maybe the bazooka and beam rifle, and maybe even the space type extra boosters, I will just give Leo a straight S. But for now, the basic version of Leo, it is going to be an A for absence. So to recap, Leo have excellent style. It is pretty much how it looked in the anime, with all the details that you might see on this scale or in the anime. And what I forgot to mention, if you're not convinced Leo should have an S in style. This is what Leo's thrusters looks like. For all three of its main thrusters, they all have these little dots, little 4 nozzles in the larger nozzle. This design is actually what we used to have on our space rockets. Action-wise, like we have demonstrated, Leo can stand on one foot very stably. It can kick its own ass. It can kick very far forward. Not quite super high. Well, super high kick if you use the back foot as well. And despite how its head's design doesn't convey a lot of movement, it still have quite a bit for expressions. And its abdomen joints can be very well hidden. And the elbow, once again, goes much further than most HG kits, double jointed or not. For Gimmick, with a removable magazine, a multicolor gun, beam saber from the shield that is actually hold as separate parts instead of, being just a featureless hilt that you have to replace with a full beam saber, and you get the extra armor for the more standard type Leo. Quite a lot of gimmick on a very basic mobile suit. And finally, for absence, it's really not the kit's fault that it is not perfectly lack of absence, rather how expandable the Leo is. For Bandai to have a specific goal with this Leo kit, they could not include everything. The A in absence is pretty much here basically to bearing all the minor markdown from the other categories. So to summarize, the HGAC 1-144 Leo have an S for style, S for action, S for gimmick, and A for absence. The Leo is pretty much the perfect representation of how it did in the TV show, if not a lot more, given the extra maneuverability that this kit just provided for more dynamic actions, and the inclusion of the shield type of just the shield really elevates the kit as a whole. Now, being a warming up kit to the Gundam's 30th years anniversary kit, a project called Gundam Evolution, Bandai's goal for Leo was that it would be sold at a relatively low price. In fact, it is the lowest price point once all the HGUC have their price risen. The 1100 yen with tax price point. Leo is one of the cheapest kit, or at least the cheapest HG kit, and it needs no stickers or color correction other than some basic panel linings, and the build is overall very simple, easy to get to. I should use the menu here for a sec. Most of the parts are laid out on the spruce very clearly, so it is hard to mix them up. It is these marketing decisions that drive the Leo to miss a few of the more gimmicky or less known, less used weapon options that you might see. If Bandai makes those options more readily available, namely not limited to P-Bandai or Gundam Base, I would say the HGAC 1-144 Leo is a straight S as a authentic representation of the Leo. But for now, it is just an excellent representation of the basic Leo or basic Leo plus some, and then a very good base for you to do customization up on for your own original Builder Gundam or just extra flair that you want to add to the Leo, because they are so dang well balanced on the industrialization, realistic machine look as well as the high tech sci fi look. Thanks for watching.